Now, shifting focus from the World Economic Forum to the upcoming mining indaba. Next month, stakeholders in the mining industry will meet under the banner Future-Proofing African Mining today. Dinieko Mahange, Director of Investment Banking at Absa CIB, joins us to discuss how strategic capital allocation can be used to safeguard the continent's mining sector. Thank you so much for your time, Dinieko. Now, mining companies have been through a number of cyclical periods. Has the industry not clocked a winning formula in terms of the timing of capital allocation?
Look, the mining industry is pivotal to Africa's economic development. However, it faces some challenges, such as volatile commodity prices and actually Africa's plan on how they're going to meet the increasing demand for critical minerals.
Yeah.
So with the article that I wrote, I aim to share light on the importance of strategic capital allocation to ensure a sustainable growth and resilience in the sector. Now, capital allocation has been a topic that mining companies continue to explore along with advisors. However, it is important for us to revisit the topic frequently as the landscape continues to evolve.
Yeah, I mean, what of the gaps here has there been? Have there been any lessons learned in terms of what mining companies used to do in the past versus how they are doing things now, or how they are looking at doing things in terms of their capital allocation decisions?
So, Zanachi, I think the major challenge is how mining companies respond and proactively respond to future demands.
Yeah.
I'll give you some examples. For instance, lithium. Lithium prices surged to almost 400% in 2022 and had a significant pullback and plummeted by 75% in 2023.
Yeah.
And we're seeing this play out in the copper space. Now, 10 years ago, copper was not the pick of the week. And now we're seeing a lot of mining clients as well as sovereign wealth funds all participating in competitive auction rounds for some of these very scarce copper resources and having to pay a hefty premium.
Yeah.
And if that capital allocation had been done upfront early on and had with this long-term vision in mind, they would have gotten ahead of that and would have yielded significant returns for their shareholders as well as all stakeholders involved.
Yeah. Do you think that mining companies are also stuck in a kind of position where they are struggling to navigate between short-term price movements, but also trying to match that with long-term demand for specifically these critical minerals?
That's a really important observation that you've made. You'll often find that shareholders would like return immediately.
Yes.
But the long-term implication is that you tend to miss the moment, and you pay a big price for inaction. And like I said, you then end up being forced to remain relevant in the industry, and the only way to do so is to pay hefty price tags for either developing assets or actually assets that are now producing and yielding production. And therefore, it's really critical that mining companies and leaders are forward-looking, forward-thinking, and get ahead of it. And so also take their investors on a journey and really explain the reason for their capital allocation strategy for the long term and its plans to enhance shareholder returns for the long term.
I mean, do you think, though, that there is room for organic growth in the mining sector, or is growth right now really focused on M&A activity, considering where we're heading in terms of the future, also just looking at the just energy transition?
No, Zanachi, there's plenty of scope for organic growth.
Yeah.
We saw an example that I'll draw you to is Kumba Iron Ore's additional investment. They made a 7.6 billion rand investment in its existing Session Mines processing technology project. So this is an existing asset. They've made an investment into it with the aim to increase premium quality iron ore production, enhances its overall profit margins, and align with global demands for green steel production. We're seeing that increasingly becoming a topic where offshore as well as local investors are demanding that sustainability be the core backbone and the core anchor for investment. So organic growth is certainly, there's plenty scope for that. M&A is driving that, but again, mining companies should put on that long-term capital allocation framework and hat on,
Yes.
and they should look for the next opportunity. What is the next wave beyond copper, and how can they now start investing with the assistance of, or at least the collaboration of governments, as well as financial institutions? How can they start exploring and developing some of these greenfield assets early, in order to get ahead of the curve?
Yeah. I mean, earlier on, you spoke about, of course, the kind of desire for mining companies to want, to reap the return of investment in the short term. And shareholders also like that. But at the same time, do you think that shareholders have maybe also gone to a point where they could forego the short-term returns for longer-term goals in terms of waiting for that return on investment to come at a later stage?
Look, I think it's a journey. It's a process. Of course, the investment community does focus on short-term yields. However, I believe if you can educate the market, educate your investor base, and they can believe in your equity story, your long-term equity story, they can see the asset that you've identified, and that you're actively working on developing with the end goal in mind. I think a lot of investors who are looking back now 10 years ago and wondering why their own investment criteria didn't include more copper mines and more copper players, I think now this will be a future learning to ensure that they don't repeat the mistakes of the past. Also working alongside CEOs and engaging with the relevant stakeholders to ensure that they optimize and they identify opportunities early, so that they can get that return when the time is right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Diniko. Of course, we will be looking very closely at those discussions from the mining indaba, and particularly looking at the collaboration between the private sector and government, as a lot of people still bemoan the policies that govern the mining industry. But we will definitely be looking out for those. Thank you so much for your time and for your insights today. That was Diniko Mahange, Director of Investment Banking at Absa CIB.